We are liberating each other from a spiritual slavery. Remember I said that evangelical Christians and others, practitioners of discovery religions, are members of communities of faithful believers, are slaves. They're slaves. Slaves in search of a master, collaborators in search of a tyrant, hoping to force their values onto everybody else because they believe that doing so will save the greatest number of people. That's what they believe, and they think they're doing good. When in fact, all they're really doing is enslaving communities of faithful believers to a few paranoid, oppressive, violent people who concentrate wealth and human power in their own hands and rule over domestic territories. And this is because the few paranoid, oppressive, violent people have a need and aspiration. Their need and aspiration is achieve and maintain authority, power, order, and control. And for that reason, they buy influence over religious authority figures. So, religious organizations are influence peddling organizations. They gain influence over communities of faithful believers, and then they peddle that influence to a few paranoid, oppressive, violent people who concentrate wealth and human power in their own hands and rule over domestic territories. And that's why you see evangelical Christians voting to elect a tyrant to power. They're hoping that this tyrant will, one, crash the economy, because they believe that atheists and others who are not doing the same thing as them and not believing the same way as they are evil and therefore need to be punished. And they would see that a collapse of the economy would be they would interpret that as a judgment of God falling upon the corrupt and evil American people. And they are hoping to, as I said, replace a secular pluralistic society with a religious elitist society. Do away with the First Amendment, do away with the Constitution even. Do away with it. That's their plan. Because they've always wanted to have what? Monarchy. Why? Because that's the form of government that their pessimistic myths are modeled on, you could say. The pessimistic myths are projections about a certain set of living arrangements, and that certain set of living arrangements existed when the myths were made and the words were written down in the set of sacred scrolls. And the certain set of living arrangements were that a monarchy existed, or a tyrant ruled over them, or something like that, and they had to comply with the will of that tyrant, with that king. There was a system of reward and punishment in place. And so they imagine a system of divine eternal reward and abominable infernal punishment to basically carry on rewarding and punishing people after their brief lives here on planet Earth end. So they're slaves. That's who they are. That's who evangelical Christians are. They're slaves in search of a master. And it's because their religious organizations make them into slaves. Their religious organizations are institutions of spiritual slavery. Their set of sacred scrolls is a manual for enslaving communities of faithful believers to the will of a few paranoid, oppressive, violent people who concentrate wealth and human power into their own hands and rule over domestic territories.